Right, I haven't done one of these in a while. This is Evil Dead Rise. From the visionary producers of the original classic. And that's true, the producers for this movie were the duo that did this one, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. Evil Dead Rise is the latest in a franchise that has spanned many years. We have had sequels, we have had attempts to remake it, we have had a TV series, we have had comic books, we have had video games. And I'm not going to show everything that I have, but I'm going to show the main things to start your Evil Dead-verse rabbit hole. We have the original classic, of course. We have Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 is often... a lot of people think that Evil Dead 2 is a remake of Evil Dead 1, except with an actual budget this time, because people actually liked this movie enough to say, alright, here's a lot more money, go make another one. So a lot of people think that this is a remake of this one because it has contradictory information that contrasts how Ash's girlfriend died, and it cuts out all of the friends that came to the cabin with Ash and his girlfriend that dies. I like to chalk it up to exactly how Ash versus the Evil Dead chalks it up. Ash versus the Evil Dead explains, I believe in either seasons 2 or 3, that both are actually correct. This is more likely the true story, but then Ash went insane, so this is all that he might remember. So this flashback of the first one is actually how Ash remembers it in his insanely madness-addled mind. It's brilliant, honestly, but it is a sequel to this. It's not a remake. Ash vs. the Evil Dead confirms that. Then, of course, we have Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is a direct sequel to Evil Dead 2. At the very end of Evil Dead, Ash gets flung into some vortex, and in Army of Darkness, we get to see where Ash fell out of that vortex into. In 2013, they decided to make Evil Dead, not to be mistaken with the Evil Dead. The Evil Dead and Evil Dead are very similar in plot synopsis, in how there's a bunch of friends that go out to a cabin, but that's usually where that connection ends. We have the dude in the jacket that looks like Ash in this one. He's the older brother, and you think that he's going to be the main character. He saves the day, but then something happens and you get a heel face turn, and then it might be the sister who's actually the main character. It's very excellently done, and it is one of the few remakes that I actually like. Not more than the original, but I really like this remake because it doesn't actually feel like a remake. And then, of course, we enter into Ash vs. Evil Dead territory, which again might actually canonize Evil Dead as having happened or taken place either in an alternate timeline or in the same timeline after the events of Evil Dead. There is a lot of convolution going on that would make Tetsuya Nomura from Kingdom Hearts, it would make that man very happy to see the convolution going on here. Evil Dead is absolutely amazing. Ash vs. the Evil Dead is absolutely amazing. It is I cannot recommend you watch this enough. All of the episodes are 30 minutes long. There's only 3 seasons. You could probably knock this out in a week. Find it somewhere. I don't know where you could find it. I found it on DVD, the complete collection, on a Black Friday sale. So you can find it somewhere and give it a shot, because it's definitely worth it, especially if you want to go into stuff like Evil Dead Rise with a kinder mind to it. And I needed that kinder mind perspective. I really did. Because in Evil Dead Rise, there is a lot of things that happen that kind of just... they made me a little bit bored. And I do make a lot of jokes about how you should call it the Evil Dead smile. Because it looks very, very similar. And I thought, oh look, it's Smile! The Evil Dead smile! And yeah. But anyways, that's enough joking around. Let's get into what Evil Dead Rise actually is. Is this good? Is this a decent movie? Is it worth your watching? Well, I can honestly say that if you're in this franchise for Ash, then you're probably not going to want to watch either Evil Dead or this one, because Ash isn't in either one. Evil Dead Rise feels like a side story that takes place in some other part of the Evil Dead universe, because Ash is nowhere to be found. The book has been buried somewhere else. Who knows, there might even be more than one book. But then, with Ash versus the Evil Dead, we've learned that there's a multiverse going on. There's a multiverse theory. So you could also make the argument and say that Evil Dead Rise takes place in an alternate dimension, an alternate timeline, where some other people picked up the book and they put it somewhere else, and they find it in an abandoned hotel, in an abandoned bank that has been turned into an apartment complex that is falling apart. There's a low-income family living there, a single mother and her 3 children. All 3 children look like they're really, really young, but one is actually in their 20s, and I honestly thought that they looked 14. And then there's another one that looked like they were 12, but they were probably a lot older than that. And then there's one that actually does look like they're like 7 or 6, and they probably are. So there's 3 young teenagers, 3 young kids, and a single mother, and then the sister of the single mother comes over to visit. And the single mother's sister is actually the main character, as the sister of the single mother is actually the Evil Dead bad person that gets possessed first. And so the oldest of the 3 kids from single mother finds the book. Somehow there's an earthquake or something, and a hole in the ground opens up, and they find that old bank vault, because their apartment complex used to be an old bank. So in the bank, they made a tomb for the Evil Dead Book of the Dead Necronomicon. They put it down there for some reason. You don't know why, but this is Evil Dead. Stop questioning these things. So they go down there, they find the book, and they play some old records, and there's words spoken on the records, of course, like with this one. And they read aloud the records, and the Kanda, whatever, they read it, and then the evil comes out, possesses the single mother, and then the single mother kills all of the other apartment complex people. The single mother kills the middle daughter, and then it kills the eldest kid, and then the single mother's sister, and then the youngest kid have to escape the evil single mother as she chases them across the apartment complex. And then the end happens where the sister of the single mother kills the single mother, and then the sister takes the youngest kid and flees the scene. And then we find that the ending cutscene, the ending scene, is actually the flashback of the opening scene. In the opening scene, we have 2 teenagers out in the middle of nowhere on some dock, lake front, whatever, and there's some Evil Dead shenanigans happening on that Evil Dead dock deck, whatever. And we find that this is where the teenager came from. The teenager was living in this rundown apartment because apparently they did not hear all of the crazy crap that was happening throughout the whole movie. So they get possessed by the Evil Dead. They go out for the party and the plank with the Evil Dead, the lake, and that's probably going to be the sequel, because as Brucey and Sam Raimi have said, if this film does well, they're probably going to make more of these, and they're easy to make. There's like, what did this cost? $13 to $15 million. This is pennies in the film industry. So anyway, how much did it make in the box office? Probably about 10 times what they put into it. So I'm guessing it made some money back, and they're probably going to use that profit to make the second one. And they're probably going to have it be the teenagers in the log cabin on the dock at the lakeside cabin, like they opened this film at. Or it might be something else completely different. It might be a sequel involving the single mother's sister. I don't know any of these guys' names. That's one of my big gripes in this movie, is that I don't know anybody's names. I just don't care to learn them. In this, in the original Evil Dead, I at least remembered people's names. There's Ash, played by Bruce Campbell. There's Scotty, Ash's friend, who's nozzle dude. There's the sister, whose name I do admittedly forget. There's the girlfriend, whom I do admittedly forget. And then there's Shelly, who is Scotty's girlfriend at the time. And then Shelly gets hit. Then the sister gets hit. Then the Shelly's done. Everybody, the Ash's girlfriend gets done. Let me see if I could remember if their names are on the back. Maybe. Oh goodness, I don't think it is. It is not. Darn it! I just don't remember the sister's name. But the sister's actress shows up in this. She comes back to life. It's hilarious. It's amazing. I think it's in the 3rd season. Watch Ash vs. Evil Dead. What are you doing? Watch Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Do it. Do it now. Right now. Don't watch this. Watch this first. Watch Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and then watch the Evil Dead Rise. Because the Evil Dead Rise is a little bit more forgiving after having watched Ash vs. the Evil Dead. If you have only seen maybe the Bruce Campbell trilogy, maybe you've seen the remake, if that's all you've watched, and then you decide to go into Evil Dead Rise, you may not like it that much. But if you've seen Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and you see the absolute shenanigans that the series is absolutely capable of, then watching Evil Dead Rise is a little... It's easier to... It's an easier pill to swallow, is what I'm saying. I don't think Evil Dead Rise is better than Evil Dead 2013. I don't think Evil Dead Rise is better than Evil Dead 2, which is probably the best in the franchise. I don't think it's better than Ash vs. the Evil Dead. I don't think it's better than Army of Darkness. I don't think it's better than The Evil Dead. And so I would put it at the bottom of everything that's come out before it, but that doesn't mean I'm giving it a bad mark. You see, the thing that comes in second place is Evil Dead, and I actually really, really like Evil Dead 2013. I do. I really like it. But I would have to say that it was a rising bar graph. It was a rising bar graph in regards to how much I liked it. So I have my handy-dandy little notepad here. Now I just need to find something to write with. Alright, here's something to write with. So let's see, we have the 3-act structure. 1, 2, 3, right? So we have the 3-act structure. If the top is how much I enjoy it, and the bottom is how much I don't enjoy it, then the Act 1 opens right around here. It opens pretty down, I don't have good expectations, I don't really care. And then it starts to get a little around here, levels off, I'm still mildly entertained. And then at the final, at the end of the act, it just goes up. So it's not a hill like I actually thought it might look. It's more like just a stepping stone, right? The second act isn't bad, it's just not good. The first act had a lot to prove. It really did. And that's probably why my enjoyment was near the bottom when we started it. Because I just didn't care about any of these characters. I didn't care about the kids. I didn't care about the single mother. I didn't care about the single mother's sister. I didn't care about the tenants in this apartment complex. I didn't care about anybody. They had to make me care about them, right? So they had a lot to do, a lot to work with. And there's a reason why Evil Dead 1 And even Ash vs. the Evil Dead, too, with Paco and all that other stuff. Pablo. There's a reason why the original Evil Dead has such a strong cast, even though I can't remember the names of some of the characters. They are at least original. We have the everyman, the Ash. He is timid in the first movie. He is a little bit scared, then he finds his courage in the end and he survives. We have Ash's girlfriend, who is basically not that well written, but at least she loves and adores her boyfriend, so they're the perfect couple, so as to say. We have Scotty. Scotty is pretty much a douche nozzle, and he's the douche nozzle character. Then he's got Scotty's girlfriend, which is more of the skinky side, a little bit on the skinky side. It's not to say she's a bad person, she's fun to be around. She's one of the more entertaining characters. I actually remember her name, Shelly, but I don't. Linda, that's it. The Linda. I don't know which one's which. Linda is one of the other characters. I don't know if Linda is the girlfriend or Linda's the sister, but I finally remember one of the names. This is a big deal for me. I'm terrible with names. Linda is either the girlfriend or the sister. So we have the sister character, who is the nerdy, bookish type. She's not exactly Miss Sociable. And if you watch the movie Cabin in the Woods, these 5 archetypes are used for all of the sacrifices in the movie for the ancient gods and all that stuff. But they have 5 very memorable tropes. They are tropes. They are basically embodiments of a trope. Their names are not important, but their tropes are very well established. They're very well recognized, and you can watch a film and enjoy it based off of those 5 tropes, and it was pretty entertaining. Honestly, in my opinion, I thought it was pretty entertaining. These characters didn't need to prove their existence to me. They were entertainingly tropish. I could just say these characters are the tropes, and I know who they are just by their tropes. And I could watch the film, and it didn't start low. It started pretty much in the middle, as I usually do. But with the Evil Dead Rise, we don't really establish these tropes. There's not too many tropes in this. I couldn't really tell you what the oldest child was into. They're basically just in their room a lot, playing with music or something. Then the middle child is kind of meanish, I guess. Then the youngest child, it kind of sounded like they were a psychopath for a little bit, kids cutting heads off their dolls. Look at the psychopathic there. So she's the creepy one. The youngest kid's the creepy one. The middle kid is the weird one, and the mean one. And the oldest kid is the is the one locked in the bedroom. And then we have the single mother who's just bland. She's just mom, and then the single mother's sister, who the film wants to give you the impression she's just a groupie. She follows bands around, she sleeps around, and we do open the film with her being pregnant. So there's that. So they're not these tropes. They're not classic movie tropes, and I guess you could applaud it for trying to take a step away from this, because with the Evil Dead, the remake, it reuses the tropes that were in this. They just swap them around a little bit. The Scotty archetype was given to one of the girls, and then the sister archetype, who was the bookish character in this one, was actually given to the Scotty character in this one. So they changed the tropes around, but at least you could recognize who these characters were and what they represented. I could not recognize these characters in Evil Dead Rise, and therefore I didn't have any connection to them. I didn't have any entertainment value from them, which means I either have to watch the film again, which I might do later on, way later on, or it's just not as strong of a character to me. I only had to watch the Evil Dead once to really enjoy it, to memorize it, to remember the film. It's a very memorable movie with very memorable effects, low budget. It is excellent. But Evil Dead Rise it tried. It tried very hard. In fact, do you see how high that third act is? It's high for a reason. The third act has a lot of excellent practical effects. The effects are beautiful. They're not Terrifier level of beautiful, but they're entertaining enough. They've reminded me of some of the effects from the Evil Dead remake, which are also very, very fun. So you could tell that they were trying here, and we had the producers, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, involved to some extent. I don't know how strongly they were involved, but they were involved in some way. I mean, let's look at some of the other people that worked on this thing. Makeup effects by Tom Sullivan, right? So, who did the makeup effects for Evil Dead 2? Executive producers. Special makeup by Mark Schustrom. And they are different in this one. And then we have Ash for the Army of Darkness, who did the makeups and stuff like that for director of photography, Bill Pope, written by Sam and Ivan Raimi. I don't see makeup. I don't see the makeup. It might just be director of photography or something. Co-producer Bruce Campbell, sorry. So there's that. Yeah. There's a lot of people that worked on this one, though. I'm going off on a tangent now. So once I start doing that, I guess it's time I gotta rein it in. I gotta say, all right, that's enough. But I'm gonna just check one more here because it's gonna bother me if I don't. Let me see who the producers are for this one. Yeah. Just like the remake, Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi produced this film just like they produced this one, okay? So it's not like this movie is any different from this one. They both produced it, okay? So one just happened to happen 10 years prior to this one coming out. Robert Tapert was also involved. Robert Tapert, do you know who Robert Tapert is? Robert Tapert was the producer of the very first Evil Dead. So all three of the old guard were involved in the remake here. But only Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi were involved producer-wise for the second Evil Dead. Now let's see if there's anything about makeup designs. On the back, Jane O'Kane. And the makeup is pretty good in this one, but I also really like the makeup in Evil Dead Rise. And who did that one, the makeup in the Evil Dead Rise? I don't see. Is Tapert on here, though? Yes, Tapert's also on here. Holy crap, I thought he wasn't on here. That's awesome. But I don't see if the same makeup, they got different makeup people for each film, I guess. But either way, if you're a fan of this franchise, you're gonna enjoy it. That's all I'm gonna say. If you're a fan of this franchise, you're gonna enjoy Evil Dead Rise. If you're not a fan, if you've only seen one or two of these Evil Dead movies and you haven't seen Ash versus the Evil Dead, you haven't seen the remake, then you're probably not going to have the best time with Evil Dead Rise, but Evil Dead Rise is still going to satisfy you just a little bit, kind of like a Blumhouse movie. You could put the Blumhouse movie in and it's fine. It's a horror movie. And that's how Evil Dead Rise is going to look, but there are some shots in Evil Dead Rise, especially in the second act, that are very good. There's no jump scares in some of these shots. It almost reminds you of an Ari Aster flick, just a little bit to really appreciate some of the shots that just give you silence, that builds the tension, and there's something creepy happening in the background. The camera focuses on them as well as focusing on the character in the forefront of the shot, and it is excellently done. I had to bring that up before I closed up shop. But it has a lot to appreciate. Even though I put it at the bottom of the list of the rankings, I still think there is a lot to appreciate in Evil Dead Rise. I wouldn't give it a ranking because I'd have to rank the other ones, A, B, C, whatever. I'm not going to give it a 1 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. I'm just going to tell you, make your own opinion on it. Just watch this first, please. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Definitely do it.